We'll begin with the invocation. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Sadasiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Varyantam Vande Guru Parambaram. I spent a lot of time this morning on the problem of guna. So, in the first list of categories I mentioned, we have dravya, guna, karma. Karma is action, movement. The Vaisesika speaks about the upward movement, the downward, the rightward, the leftward, and also is something like a circulation. It is only a dravya that is involved in action. And therefore, like guna, karma also is located in the dravya. That is why he said that they form a group. Then we have the samanya, the universal, and the Vishesha. They form a group. It is generally translated, samanya is translated as the universal. A class. Here it is a universal, we say. Samanya, generally it is formed through a kind of an abstraction. It is not what is perceived, it is what is known through the intellect or reasoning. When there are several individuals, particulars, when we notice a common feature running through all of them, we call it the class feature. The class feature. That feature belongs to those individuals or the particulars as a class. We call it samanya. You know that sometimes we also use the term genus. Class feature, the universal. How many universals are there? Quite a few. We can't give the number and all that. As many common characteristics that we notice in the particulars or the individuals, there are so many universals. The universals are supposed to be eternal. Eternal. By then usually will not accept that one. There is nothing eternal excepting Brahman. Since this school is a realistic school admitting many objects, some of them being eternal, like the atoms and all that one. They say that the samanya also is an eternal one. Not relatively eternal to them, but to the Vedantin, to the Advaitin, nothing is eternal excepting Brahman, Atman. And then the Vishesha. Vishesha is that specific quality, not of ordinary individuals, objects, but the specific quality of the eternal substances. For example, the atoms are eternal. 4 kinds of atoms. Atoms of earth, water, air and fire. Now each atom has got its own specific quality. Though it is indivisible and all that one. According to the Vaisesika, every atom has got its specific quality. The atoms of earth they got specific quality. Similarly, they speak about time and space and all that one. Atman. manas. Now the specific quality of these eternal entities, that specific quality is what is called a Vishesha. If the specific, the objects are eternal, the quality, specific quality of called the Vishesha, that is also eternal. Samanya and Vishesha. So 3 plus 2, 5. The sixth is what is called the Samavaya. Samavaya. It's a category. It's a category standing for relation. It is a category by itself. Relation is a category, padartha. But it plays such an important role in the Vaisesika metaphysics. For example, if you take an object which is a whole, every object is a whole. Now the whole, where does it exist? The whole is the parts. Normally we will say the parts are in the whole. Nyaya reverses, say the whole is in the parts. The cloth, where is it? In the threads. Guna or karma, that is in dravya. Samanya, where does it exist? In the individual objects. The common feature called Samanya, where is it located? Where does it exist? In the individual objects. Vishesha, similarly in the specific, the eternal atoms, specific objects which are eternal. Now, the guna and the dravya, how is it that they have got a relation or not? There is a relation. The quality and the dravya, they are related by samavaya. Whole and parts, universal and the individuals. Vishesha and those eternal entities. Now just to look at the problem. Shankara highlights the problem when he criticizes the Nyaya Vaisesika theory. It's an important category. If this category does not function, then how can you account for the relation between the guna and the dravya, or karma and dravya, the relation between the universal and the individual objects, samanya and the individual objects, Vishesha and those eternal entities. Now, so it relates guna with dravya, let us say. One specific case we will take. There is dravya. Dravya is substance. There is guna. When something is in something else, there will be a relation. There are two relations. One is samyoga. It is considered to be a quality. It is an external, temporary relation between any two objects. Now I am holding this writing piece. There is a relation between my two fingers and this object. I can take away my fingers. My fingers remain the same. They are what they are. No change has taken place. Nor any change has taken place in this one. I touch the table. The relation between my finger and the top of the table is an external temporary relation. Whenever I want, I put my hands, my fingers here, otherwise I withdraw. neither my fingers are affected nor the top of the table is affected. It is an external, temporary relation between two objects, two material objects such as these. He calls it a quality. Now, there is another relation called the samavaya. It is also a relation, but this relation is treated as a category padartha, dravya. Now, the quality is related with the dravya, or dravya has got a relation with the guna. This is not out substratum, this is what remains in that one. Now, this is an independent category. Just as the two are two different categories, this is one category, this is another category. This is a third category. Now, there can be relation between the guna and dravya only because of samavaya. So, samavaya is that dravya, is that padartha which relates here dravya on the one hand and the guna on the other. These are the two independent entities. The two independent entities are related by a third independent entity. Now, if these two independent entities are to be related by another independent entity, then Shankara asks, should not this samavaya first of all have a relation with dravya? Similarly, it must have a relation with guna, then it can relate it. For example, you do not know me, I do not know you. After coming here, somebody, the Swamiji comes here and says, well, this is Balasubramanian who is going to teach you the subject. Well, you are one of the participants. I come to know you, you come to know me as somebody, because of the third factor. Swamiji is known to me, and I say that he is also known to you. Therefore, a person who is known to two individuals who are strangers, he plays a role of connecting myself and another person. So similarly, this samavaya, call it, let us say, it is a yes. Yes must have relation with the dravya. It must also have a relation with the guna, so that it can relate dravya and guna. First, it must come into relation with dravya. How does it come into relation? This is one independent entity. This is another independent entity. How do they come into each other? So there must be another relation. Supposing this is one relation, then there should be a relation between the dravya and the samavaya. Let us say that there is R2. Here is relation 1, R2. Now R2, samavaya, another samavaya. R2, this relation must come into relation with the dravya on the one hand and with this samavaya on the other. So there must be relation. There must be relation here. And in each case, this relation requires another relation, another relation, another relation. Because one relation is different from another relation. Just as one entity is different from another entity. Now, first, initially, the Vaisesika should solve this problem. Because he declares that all these are independent entities, padarthas. But this plays a very crucial role, connecting one with another. How can it connect unless it is itself connected with the other entity? We use the term relata. Things which are related, relatum singular, relata plural. This is one relatum. This is another relate. A thing related is a relatum. This is a thing related with this. This is a relatum. Guna is related with dravya, therefore this is a relatum. And the plural of relatum is relata. So we have two relata, things related. The two are related by samavaya, a relation. Now, samavaya should first of all come into relation with the dravya. On the one hand, it should be known to dravya. Similarly, it should be known to guna so that it can play the role of a mediator, a relator. But it should come into relation with dravya, first of all. How does it come into? The two are not the same, they are totally different. So the two must be related. To relate them, we require another relation. That relation, you can call it relation 2. Relation 2 must come into relation with the dravya. It goes on like that. In order to solve this problem of infinite regress, what the Vaisesika could do is, somehow it does it. But unfortunately, somehow will not work in philosophy. Somehow, what is that somehow? Is it an accidental way of relating? That is not philosophy, because there is no accidents at all, no chance at all. We may not know the cause, but I don't think that we could declare that it takes place without any. Somehow it takes place. How? Somehow. I don't know why it takes place, how it takes place. Neither science nor philosophy provides a place for chance. Chance, to speak about chance is to indirectly admit one's ignorance. I don't know, we could say, I don't know. It's a quite common expression, I don't know. In the class, when the teacher is questioned or anything, cornered by the student, professor will say, I don't know. He is very sincere, not to try to escape or anything, no. Probably, sometimes you will say, probably you are right. I don't think that Indian professors, they will say like that. No, I have not seen. Don't ask me whether I do say. I do say. So this is a big problem. And the Nyayikas, they say that, I don't know, these initiates here, they were talking about Swarupa Sambandha. Could you tell me, what is Swarupa Sambandha? So it is so endowed by God that it is capable of coming into relation with something else. It has got that miraculous power, and therefore it doesn't require another relation. That is Swarupa Sambandha. It is capable of coming into. So it is one way by means of which the system could be saved. Otherwise, because already it has collapsed. Shastriyar made a reference. I think Revati Madam also made a reference to the problem. So generally they say that it is a weak link in the otherwise a very beautiful chain that has been prepared by the Vaisesika. It's a weak link. If the link is weak, the whole chain goes out. Samavaya. In the second Adhyaya, when Shankara examines the Nyaya Vaisesika system, he exposes the untenability of the concept of Samavaya in the Vaisesika system once you question Samavaya, once you are able to show that it will not help to relate the different categories, then to say that the guna is in Dravya, action is in, that in relation becomes untenable. Don't ask what does it matter. Then he has to, the Vaisesika has to redefine all the categories. And each remains separate from the other one. Samavaya could as well be dropped. But this problem will be there. I won't propose to proceed further. If you are interested, you can study the category, because descriptive matter metaphysics, you can study that one, see how it is like. And the other systems also, Ramanuja and others, they also try to expose the difficulty here in the Vaisesika metaphysics. So 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6. The seventh is the negative category. It's called abhava. Abhava. Abhava means non-existent. Samavaya is? You restructure your metaphysics. That is not our business. You have proposed to prepare a catalogue of entities, and you define each entity, and you say that Samavaya is there, otherwise they remain unconnected. And then the connecting factor is needed, and then this connecting factor is Samavaya. It is not just an ordinary relation like Samyoga. Quality, any quality, it's a quality in a Dravya. There is no option. I have the option here, I don't have to touch the table. There is no compulsion. I have 1.5 hours, I can lecture in such a way without touching the table. Example for Samavaya, it's a relation. Here, actually, the example is here, that is a guna is in Dravya. The white color is in chalk. A piece of chalk is Dravya, it's a substance. And where is the white color? Chalk. So is there a relation between that white color and the chalk piece? What is that relation? The relation is called Samavaya relation. Now, according to the Vaisesika, what is the explanation for each category? Dravya is one padartha, guna another padartha. Are they already related? No, they are entirely different. Entirely different. But the definition of guna is such that it requires a substance for its location. Is it not so? It can't hang in the mid-air, nor can it remain unrelated to a substance. It has to exist in a substance, it has to be in a substance. That preposition in, very important, in a substance. When it is in a substance, when for example the curd is in the pot, is there a relation between the curd and the pot? There is a relation. It may be an external relation. But the curd has got a certain quality, so a certain taste. It's a quality that is in the curd. Can you separate the two? No. They are related. But relation is called a Samavaya relation. The question is, how is it that this Samavaya, which is a category by itself, guna is a category by itself, Dravya is a category by itself. This says, Samavaya says, I will relate the two. All right? already are related to the guna, you should have known guna. You should have some relation with that. Similarly, you should have some relation with the other one, so that you can bring them together. குழந்தைகள்லாம் விளையாடும் போது எல்லாம் அப்படியே செயின் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். So I am connected with somebody else, the sixth individual. Let it be that I start the whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have relation with the sixth by touching this person, that person touching the other one. So, question is, all the time the same question will be repeated. Any relation you bring in, one samavaya, second samavaya, third samavaya, the problem will be worse if the Vaisesika says there is only one samavaya. Then we have to say that is the omnipotent God. Because it has got such a power of relating everything. There is no need for God. It's a weak metaphysics. What appears to be a strong metaphysics to start with reveals its weakness because of this one category. They examined the issue. If you are really interested, why don't you just take the second chapter and the sutra, the particular sutra you can identify the way in which Shankara analyzes, first explains and analyzes, gets into the problem. Then Nyaya does reply, I have not understood the reply at all, because this Swarupa Sambandha itself, எப்படியோ நான் அங்கே போய் சேர்ந்துக்கிறேன், தொட்டுக்கிறேன். எப்படி தொட்டுக்கிறேன்? எப்படியோ தொட்டுக்கிறேன். ஏன்டி ஸ்வரூபம் போய் தொடர்றது? என்ன ஸ்வரூபம் தொடர்றது? I don't know. Have you been convinced? You are an Advaitan, unfortunately for us. How? Now I asked Shivajivan Bhattacharya, what do you mean by Swarupa Samanda? He said, I'm not comfortable. He's an Nyayika.
These are all the inconsistencies in the system which one has to admit.
I don't know whether you will swear it in the presence of the Nyayika's group. I don't know.
Well, we should call a spade if it is so.
Yeah, we understand the problem. But it is a wonderful system. The way in which the metaphysics aspect has been brought out, clean categories. 1, 2, 3, 4, not 16. Number has been reduced. 16. Huh? I don't know, so, Swamiji, because for me, mathematics is very weak. I don't know. And so you make it an axiom in order to solve the problem. Axiom cannot be questioned, should not be questioned. It is always taken for granted to be true. Huh?
Initial
Postulate, initial postulate. That means you make a postulate in order to explain something. This is how we understand the postulate. You formulate a hypothesis in order to explain something. So long as it is not verified and proved, it remains only in the status of a hypothesis. Am I right? Only when it is experimentally verified and proved, the hypothesis established, then you don't have to call it hypothesis, it becomes a theory. So the transformation takes place from the status of a hypothesis to the status of a proof, a theory, as a result of this transformation. So initially, if you assume it to be true, then prove it. You say that it doesn't require proof, I don't know. We require proof. And we have had distinguished mathematicians. Descartes was a mathematician, Spinoza was a mathematician, Leibniz was a mathematician. When it is calculus, it is Leibniz. And they have constructed philosophy. Well, Spinoza has developed the philosophy in the form of definition, axiom, and all that one. He has not taken for granted. Yeah, this is only the difficulty we expose. Just think about it, Swamiji, because you can probably throw light. It is a traditional problem, and Shankara's criticism is thorough, Shankara and his followers. Similarly, even the Visishtadvaitin does criticize. He is not the friend of Vaisesika even. So this is a problem. I don't propose to take more time because in the case I think that we have got only 3 more days. We give you a taste of the whole thing, an overview. But this Vaisesika can be studied for 1 semester sometimes. More than that in the case of the Nyaya. This is only a segment of that. Let us take up the negative category, abhava. Abhava. Look at the acuteness of the Indian mind, the Indian philosophical mind, to think about abhava as a category. I'm really amazed. Sartre talks about absence as something like an entity. Sartre, S-A-R-T-R-E. I don't think that any philosopher in any philosophical system in the West makes absence or non-existence as a category, philosophical category. For what is non-existent, he talks about, the philosopher talks about the qualities. It is just like the child is yet to be conceived. As it is non-existent. Well, the couple begins to talk about the child to be conceived. What is the name to be given to the child? Apologies to the ladies here. It's a proverb which my aunt used to say. So, they name it. தமிழ்ல சொல்றது குழந்தை பிறக்கவே இல்லை, பேர் முத்துக்கருப்பன் பேர் வச்சுக்கலாம். குழந்தையே இல்லை, பேர் வச்சாச்சு முத்துக்கருப்பன். So, we question whether there is such an entity. It's a negative entity, absence, non-existence. Now the Nyaya, the Vaisesika says, he can talk about the qualities. He classifies them into categories, the division. I was just telling that I don't think that I have come across any philosophical discussion about absence or non-existence as a category in a Western epistemology. But Sartre, the French existentialist, he talks about absence. But it is only in a story, dramatic way, where he wants to highlight the absence of somebody. The context is like that. I just give you a brief account. There is a prayer appointment, and as per the appointment, he expects his friend, Peter. I don't know the name now. Peter, it's long ago, in the restaurant. Usually, Sartre used to discuss and transact all his business sitting in the restaurant, enjoying his cigar and with his friends. As soon as he enters that restaurant, his focus is only on his friend. Where is he? Just as when we go to the railway station to see somebody, our focus is only on that person. Our attention, our perception gets focused. Your best friend may be somewhere here. You won't see him. The other day, yesterday, you will say, oh, I was standing by you, but you didn't even pay attention. How can you pay attention? Because you are trying to locate the compartment and the person to come down. So he went there and then his focus was on the front. He looks everywhere. The whole restaurant looks empty. Look at the dramatic way he conveys. Empty. It looks empty. Everywhere he sees only the absence of his friend. Absence of his friend. Absence as if it is an entity which can be seen, which can be perceived. The person is not there. How can he see the absence of a person? And then he says so many things about the absence, how he feels it, this and that. Now here is a negative category, non-existence. Non-existence of a thing. Existence can be perceived. Now the question is, can non-existence, abhava, can also be perceived? Nyaya says yes. The pramana through which you see the existence of a thing, but the same pramana, we can also perceive the non-existence of a thing. Therefore, he is not going to search for another pramana for perceiving abhava, for getting the knowledge of abhava. He talks about different relations in perception. So perception alone will do. Whereas for the Bhattas, in a Mimamsa there is the Kumarila tradition. The Bhattas and Advaitins and others, they say that there is the need for another pramana. There are already 5 pramanas. 4 we have discussed. In the Mimamsa school, the Prabhakara school brings in one more pramana, Arthapatti, postulation. And the Bhatta school brings in one more pramana in order to explain non-existence or abhava as a category. That pramana is called Anupalabdhi. Name is Anupalabdhi. Upalabdhi is cognition, Anupalabdhi non-cognition. It is a 6th pramana. And in the classical text, it is referred to as Shakka pramana. They don't even mention the name. The 6th pramana. The 6th pramana means Anupalabdhi. In any match, sometimes there is an order, and similarly here is an order. You don't have to mention Anupalabdhi. 6th pramana, that is Anupalabdhi. Nyaya doesn't accept that one, only perception, that is enough. There are 4 pramanas for him. Vaisesika, only 2. Now, abhava, so there is no entity at all. Absence of a thing is called abhava, non-existence of part, non-existence of a pen here. You talk about the absence of a fountain pen here, that ballpoint pen which I am having. It's not present here. There are 2 kinds of classification is given, samsarga bhava and atyanta bhava. Sorry, anyonya bhava. Samsarga bhava. Samsarga is relation. That is, you talk about an entity and its non-existence, and it is a non-existent in something like that one.
The Vaisesika system, so it is saying that the same pramana which is used to see the bhava can be used to see the abhava.
That is Nyayika's argument.
Yes.
His friend.
If you take pratyaksha, this is pratyaksha happens from the connection of the indriya and the indriyartha. So, in the case of abhava, there is no sannikarta happening between indriya and indriyartha, and there is smriti also being involved. If I say the friend is not there, the friend is only appearing in the mind as the bhava, but he is not there outside. So, how can we say pratyaksha is seeing the abhava? So, pratyaksha also is not working. Pratyaksha is involved in smriti.
But how many relations he is talking about in the case of pratyaksha? No. 6 different kinds of contact. So, yeah. So therefore there is a ruling. Others do not accept. He gives ruling. The pramana, by means of which you are able to perceive the existence of a thing, with the same pramana we can also perceive the existence of its non-existence. It is very difficult for me to understand. I go in for anupalabdhi, another pramana. This is what the Nyaya says. Probably, did you discuss that one? No. Discuss that one.
When I speak of anupalabdhi,
Okay. But anyhow, this is, he accepts not just 6 kinds of contact. That one kind of a contact is enough for him, by means of which he could explain the whole thing. Therefore, there is no need for him, Vaisesika means Nyayika here. There is no need for him to go in for another pramana. But the need is felt by the Bhattas and the Advaitins, therefore they go in for another pramana called Anupalabdhi. Now let us forget it for the time being. A negative entity is now going to give classification, Samsarga Bhava and Anyonya Bhava. Samsarga Bhava and Anyonya Bhava. This again is of 3 kinds. One is called, I think I have given the spelling. One is called Praga Bhava. Do I have it given or not? Otherwise I can write. Praga Bhava. The other is called Pradvamsa Bhava. And the third one is called Atyanta Bhava. Praga Bhava, Pradvamsa Bhava or Dvamsa Bhava. Short name Dvamsa Bhava. Full name Pradvamsa Bhava. And then Atyanta Bhava. Prag Abhava. Prag is here. Prayer. Look at the way, the ingenuity of the Nyayika, the shortness of the Nyayika. Our familiar example is pot. Easy. No strain for the teacher, no strain for the student. Pot. A pot now exists. I am talking about an existent pot. This time, at time 1, T1, I see the pot. It's before me. Before its origination, the pot was non-existent. The non-existent pot is originated at T1, time 1 by the potter. It has taken shape now at T1. Before it took shape, it was non-existent. Non-existent. This non-existence of the part before its origination is called a prior existence of the part. Prior non-existence of the part. I put a long line. Supposing you ask the question, I can answer this question. When did it come into existence? This time, time 1. At time 1, it took full shape. Before it took full shape, was it existent or non-existent? It was non-existent. Probably it was in clay. That is another issue. Before T1, it was non-existent. Now, if you ask the question, how long was it non-existent? We don't know. Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? No, we don't know. We know about it, we don't know anything about its history. Its antecedents, ANTE, antecedents. We don't know anything about it. All that we know is it has taken its genesis at time 1. Earlier it was non-existent. How long? We do not know anything about the beginning of its non-existence. But this non-existence of the part, it came to an end at T1. That means its non-existence has no beginning, but it has an end. When does it come to an end? It comes to an end exactly at T1. From T1, it is in existence. So this non-existence of the part prior to its existence, that non-existence is called pragabhava. Prior non-existence of part. So pragabhava has got 2 qualities. இப்போ கதை சொல்றோம் நமக்கு இல்லாத ஒரு வஸ்துவுக்கு it has no beginning but an end. Pragabhava has no beginning but an end. He is not talking about the beginning and the end of the part. His now worry is about its non-existence. The part has got a beginning. You can say for 3 days it was in existence. Unfortunately, that it slipped or somebody smashed it and then it got destroyed. We will come to that story also now. This is prior non-existence of the part. Pragabhava has no beginning but an end. Now supposing, sometimes I get angry in the kitchen. Something is irritating. The easy way of getting rid of your irritation. You transfer your anger to the thing. We are told, you must try to get into your family and then see the people and how they... My mother, whenever she gets angry, the பாத்திரங்கள்லாம் ஹேண்டில் பண்ணும்போது டப்பு டப்பு நுப்பா. என் தம்பிக்கு தெரியும். ஓ அம்மாவுக்கு கோவம் வந்துருக்குடா, மங்கள பாத்திரம்லாம் டக்குன்னு வைக்கிறா. வியாப்தி. That means everybody will become silent for some time till her anger subsides. But ஏம்மா அப்படி பண்ணின? At that time we cannot go and negotiate with her. In a family, there is a lot of negotiations. We have to live. Everybody has to live in the family. That is a family. So similarly here, the Nyaya, you look at, that's why I say that one, look at the way in which, I don't think that such a discussion is there in Western epistemology anywhere. Did this problem did not strike them? It's only the mind of the Nyaya is so curious to develop this theory. I don't have any answer. You can frame your own answer. So the spot is destroyed. There is the destruction of the part, dvamsa of the part. It has taken place at, let us say, time 2. So from time 1 to time 2, this was an existence. What? At time 2, it was destroyed. So it disappeared. So time 2. And then, how long does this non-existent continue? This is not prior non-existence, but posterior non-existence. Posterior. Prior, posterior. Pradvamsa bhava. For this pradvamsa bhava, it has got a beginning, T2, the time, but no end. The part is destroyed, is destroyed. And whatever we can, that is a different part. Whatever part. That original part is not there, gone. So, this is pradvamsa bhava. Pradvamsa bhava, this posterior non-existence has a beginning but no end. no anta. These two. And then there is a third one, atyanta bhava, total non-existence. Atyanta bhava. Take the case of an entity which is totally non-existent. At no time did it exist. Sky flower. There is such a thing called sky. There is such a thing called flower. But there is no entity called a sky flower. Sky-flower. Ahaya tamarai. A beautiful line from Kannadasan. I used to enjoy that one, give it as an example for the concept of Maya. Ahaya pandalile ponnunjal adudamma. Look at the imagery, poetic imagery. Ahaya pandal. There is a structure, pandal, thatched structure hanging in the sky. Is it possible? Unless you bring in the great Mayan or somebody. Ahaya pandalile. Not a pandal here. We can put up a pandal when there is a big conference and all that one. Ahaya pandalile. Ponnunjal adudamma. Ponnunjal. A swing made of gold. Very difficult. You can have a golden golusu. We find people having that one. Agaya pandalile ponnunjal adudamma. There is no ponnunjal like Mechanas gold. I saw it in 4 or 5 times. Such an enjoyable. Did you see? You enjoyed it? Good. Mechanas gold. So, the sky flower is totally non-existent, not only to you, to me, everywhere. I don't think that even in USA, if I go to Disneyland, they can give an imagery of that. I don't think they can put up a structure like that. Disneyland. Agaya Pandal, Ponnunjal, totally non-existent. So, a thing which is totally non-existent in the past, in the present and the future. We also make a declaration with regard to the future. That is called Atyanta Bhava. Atyanta Bhava. The question of its beginning or end does not arise because it is totally non-existent. So, this is one variety. Then to distinguish this variety, that all the 3 come under one category, samsarga bhava. Then there is what is known as anyonya bhava, anyonya bhava. Translation, mutual non-existence, reciprocal non-existence. There are 2 entities. A is A. A cannot become B. B is B. B cannot become A. So, A is, first let me use the same language. A is totally different from B. It is different from B. A is different from B. E is different from B. I can say reverse. B is different from A. There is a non-existence of A in B. Another way of putting that one. Non-existence of A in B. How can A be there in B? A can be only in A. B can only be in B. Supposing I say that the non-existence of A in B or the non-existence of B in A, it's a case of mutual non-existence, reciprocal non-existence. That means A is different from B and B is different from A. So they say for Veda is difference. For instead of talking about Veda between A and B, we talk about the non-existence of A in B or the non-existence of B in A. The so-called Anyonya Bhava is another name for Bheda. So that is the story that Nyaya has got to say with regard to Abhava as a category. Any doubts, questions? Only she can do that one. Nyaya can do that one. From here. Okay. Let us proceed a little fast. Where am I? Something more. Then the physical world, the theory of the physical world, creation and dissolution. He talks about the, he has got enough categories through which he can account for the creation of the world. And God, here also same thing, the same God is there for the Nyaya and the Vaisesika. It's only efficient cause. There are objects which are already in existence. The atoms are there, 4 kinds of atoms. Other entities are there. They are eternal. And what he does is he combines the atoms. 2 atoms of a particular kind will give rise to a dyad, Dvanika. And 3 Dvanikas will have Dvanikas, one Trenuka, a triad. And therefore, there are compounds and all that one, the compositions take place, then we have such a wonderful world. So, the creation takes place. Trenuka.
And Dvayanuka and Anu is known by inference.
It's known only by inference. The first perceptible entity is Trianuka.
Because it possesses Mahatva.
And Udbhuda. Am kada? And so long as you sit in the class, you have to listen to him. Because to say that, for example, Samanya is eternal, it pains us to start with. It's an eternal thing. And similarly, when the Nyaya says this Atman, there are 2 kinds of Atman, Paramatma and Jivatma. And the Atman, whether it is Jivatma or Paramatma, is not only eternal, but it is all pervasive. So the Atman in me is all pervasive. The Atman in you, Swamiji, is also all pervasive. Will it not clash? Will there be enough space? When my Atman, being all pervasive, occupies the entire space, there is space for your Atman. Where will you go? And
It is being conditioned by a particular body, so it is admitted as a conditioning factor.
conditioning, but what is its nature? Supposing the conditioning is removed, upadhi is removed. The same way as that Vaidin speaks about. The upadhi is removed. And the Atman is left free. It is all pervasive, everywhere. Your Atman is also all pervasive. We don't have one, as many individuals as we have, so many all pervasive entities are. That is the space. I discussed this issue with my colleague, Vaisesika professor. He is such a nice man. He will discuss with us. He said that because he has a problem in Vaisesika, the same problem. There are many interesting stories, we don't have the time. This mind, they talk about the dimension with regard to the mind. 3 dimensions. Anuparimana, Vibhuparimana and Madhyama Parimana. Puriyala enakku. complicated issues. You have to strain your imagination to understand all these issues. So, when I discuss this issue with the all-pervasive nature of, there is a plurality of Atman, every Atman is all-pervasive and eternal and all that. There is a space, I told you. He says, the problem of space will arise only with regard to a material entity. If one material entity is all-pervasive, it will not give any space for any other entity. But that is not the case with regard to spiritual entities. Atman is a spiritual entity without any clash among themselves or between the two. If you take only two, between no clash between the two or no clash among all the individual Atmans, they can comfortably exist because each is a spiritual entity. That is the explanation he gave. I don't understand.
I can give an example.
For what?
For this explanation. Take two gases, say hydrogen, oxygen. They can interpenetrate each other and pervade say the whole room.
Yeah, I understand.
In the same way, extending this, you can imagine infinite number of gases. Hydrogen, oxygen, so many.
A gas, is it a spiritual entity or a material entity, sir?
So the same way you can have infinite number of gases, each interpenetrating everything else. This is one way to understand this.
Maybe.
So since he said this is spiritual entity, so there should be no problem.
That's probably what he meant. But I find it difficult. Anyhow, that is by the way, because we are considering the problem of the creation of the world. The world is created, and I don't go into the question about the creation and then the possibility of the combination and all that one. And, finally, I say that comments on the physicalism, spiritualism, and theism, and specific comments, because for me, I don't deny physicalism, but physicalism cannot be the last word. Theism is there, but the same objection is here. Either you accept God and endow God with the full power to create the world, playing the role of both the material cause and the efficient cause. But if you go into limit it, the limitation is eternal. And there is no point in having a God who suffers limitation because of our inability to understand the composition of the world. More difficulties you can raise later. I will just make a beginning with the Sankhya. Essentials we have touched. Physicalism is the theory that which accepts the existence, independent existence of the physical entities, such as the stone and the wood, all of them. Instead of saying materialism, because the materialism means it will be a big block, so we change the word, it's physicalism. A realist accepts the existence of entities outside the knower or the cognizer. They exist independently. That is the definition. And entities means physical entities, material entities. The Sankhya system. How old is that? We don't know. Exactly we can't say. There is a reference to the Sankhya in the Mahabharata, in the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra. In Brahma Sutra, repeatedly it comes the Sankhya theory. Sankhya theory. And perhaps the Sankhya, critics say that the Sankhya was a major opponent to be considered. Because the number of times it comes in the Brahma Sutra, when Shankara writes his commentary quite frequently. And I have indicated that we are not sure that the Sankhya philosophy that is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya is used for the knowledge system, Jnana Yoga, Jnanavada. So, what is that Sankhya, original Sankhya philosophy was very difficult to say. And the date, certainly it must be prior to the Brahma Sutra. Because the Brahma Sutra, there are references in the Sutra where we have got reference to the Sankhya system. And Sankhya Karika, Sankhya Pravachana Sutra is the basic work. I mentioned that one. Sankhya Pravachana Sutra. Then Sankhya Karika came subsequently by Ishvara Krishna, the most popular book. We know so much about the Sankhya system through Sankhya Karika by Ishvara Krishna. It is assigned, Hiriyanna and others assigned the date 5th century AD. So if Sankhya Karika is assigned to 5th century AD, the Sutra work must be much earlier. How much earlier? We don't know, excepting to say that we have got the authentic text, Brahma Sutra, earlier than Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra probably 1st century AD, 1st century BC, or 1st century AD, we are not sure. But the scholars Indologists spend much time to determine the date. It is just like trying to find the pathway of a bird in the sky. Try. They spend the time. Or I'll give another more empirical example. Supposing a person undertakes to count the hairs of a cat. So as you touch that one, many of them will fall. You have to pick up, everything you have to pick up. But they are so much interested, so much interested. So the earlier Sankhya was called Nirisvara Sankhya. The later Sankhya, they say that Isvara Sankhya, we don't know. It's only history. But the yoga system provides a place for God, I stated already, for the purpose of meditation and all that. Now, what I would like to do is, before we go into the details of the system, if you take page 13, number 6, there are certain basic postulates in the Sankhya system. It is a Hiriyanna who formulates the postulates. Wonderful. I don't think that anybody like Hiriyanna could get into the spirit of the system in the way in which he has done. If you really want to understand the Sankhya, but remember also, the Sankhya is a system which is very close to Advaita. In fact, sometimes we used to say, first to understand the Sankhya system, let there be a preliminary to your study of Advaita. It helps us in several ways. The Parinamavada will help us to understand the Vivartavada. I think the Sankshepa-Sariraka makes a statement that the Parinamavada. So, Sankshepa-Sariraka, in that work, there is a statement that the Parinamavada of the Sankhya is the Purva Bhumi, the logical ground. Purva Bhumi translates as the logical ground. Purva Bhumi. Purva Bhumi. Earlier ground, logical ground for Vivartavada. In fact, the whole of the Sankhya system, the concept of Purusha, the concept of Prakriti, concept of Purusha is almost like the concept of Atman of the Advaita system. The concept of Prakriti is almost like, I say almost because there is a major difference, like Maya. Whereas Maya is a dependent entity, it is a dependent on Brahman. According to Advaita, Prakriti is an independent principle. It exists as an independent principle from Purusha. We say that Prakriti and Maya. We say that Maya is dependent on the self or the Purusha. Otherwise, this is inanimate principle, this is inanimate, all that you can say. The self, Purusha for the Sankhya. Purusha requires the help of Prakriti for its liberation. It has to free itself from Prakriti. Prakriti is an active principle, but insentient. This is an intelligent principle, but inactive. This is the only principle, self is the only principle for the doyen. Because of this Prakriti, you can call it Prakriti, Maya, Ajnana, Avidya, Tamas. All these are the terms that are used for Maya. Prakriti is a term also that is used. Tamas. So, it is a dualism that creates a problem. If the dualism is removed, the rest of it becomes easy. But the Sankhya is a dualistic system. Whereas the Nyaya Vaisesika, that is a pluralistic. This is dualistic. So you see there is a progress here from pluralism to dualism, from dualism to monism. That's why we have the systems Nyaya, Vaisesika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa and Vedanta. Mimamsa, we don't attach so much importance to its metaphysics and all that one. Almost the same as the Vaisesika metaphysics. Slight differences. So, the postulates of the system, what are the basic principles of the system as formulated by Hiriyanna, you have it in the bigger book, Outlines of Indian Philosophy, not in the essentials. I have given them. Let me read comments. Whatever is, always is. What's a wonderful formula. We accept it. Whatever is, always is. What is always is. What is not can never be. Bhagavad Gita. Nasado vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sadaha. In a very sutra style, he has mentioned that one. Whatever is, always is. You can read the entire Advaita here. Forget that I have given that in Sankhya, that Hiriyanna has given in the Sankhya system. Whatever is, always is. Atman, Brahman, always is. Whatever is not, never is. Second, change implies something that changes. When you talk about change, there must be an entity that changes. There is an entity called a part that changes. Or Maya is an entity that changes. Maya is subject to transformation. The entire manifested world, so far as the material aspect is concerned, so far as the Trigunatmaka aspect is concerned, Maya is Trigunatmaka. So also is avidya. So you can say that how the manifested Maya, the Maya, which undergoes transformation, has appeared as a manifested world. Change implies something that changes. Third, the effect is essentially same as its material cause. You consider the sutra, the principle, karya karanayoho ananyatvam. We say the effect is non-different from its cause, not vice versa. It is from the same cause, the same effect is produced. When we talk about the causal relation in the West, we say, for every effect there is a cause. And the same cause produces the same effect, all that is clear. We invoke the principle of the uniformity of nature there in Western logic. The principle of the uniformity of nature. Nature behaves in a uniform way. Therefore, the same cause will produce the same effect. Or reverse, the same effect is brought into being by the same cause. All that is fine. But it is here we specifically say that the effect is non-different from its cause. Karya karanayoho ananyatvam. We don't talk about first karana. Very significantly. A part made out of clay, a part that is the effect, it is non-different from its cause. Clay. It is clay. Wherever you carry it, it will be clay. Even if you carry it to the Indraloka, it will be clay. Because it is a clay part, it is made of clay. It cannot give up its swarupa. If clay is the cause for the part, clay constitutes the swarupa or the essence of the part. And no object can give up its swarupa and exist. To lose one's swarupa is to cease to be. C-E-A-C. Cease to be. It cannot exist. So we say, the Vedantin says, the effect is non-different from its cause. A part is non-different from its cause. If a part is made of clay, if clay is the cause and part is the effect, part is non-different from clay. We should not say clay is non-different from part, because clay has a freedom to be a pot, to be a pan, to be a saucer, or it can remain as a clay. You can't compel it, please assume the form of pot. No, no compulsion. When we discuss, for example, in Western logic, we discuss causal relation. This subtlety that is brought out here is really unique. For various reasons, they have to bring out. The entire manifested world, in an important sense, is non-different from Brahman. It is an effect. We don't say that the cause is non-different from the effect. No. Brahman, Ishvara, can remain as Ishvara. There is no compulsion. But through Maya, the world has been manifested. And Maya is the material cause, and Ishvara, he has got that intelligence in him, is the efficient cause. The two, Maya is not different from Ishvara. It is a dependent entity, Shakti. Mayinam tu Maheswaram. Call that Maya, Prakriti, and this Mayin is Ishvara, one who has this. Just as we talk about Dhanavan, Mayin. So, Karya Karanayoho Ananyatvam. The effect is non-different from its cause. It is essentially the same as its material cause, non-different from its material cause. Third one. All variety can eventually be traced to three sources. This is specifically with regard to the Sankhya. All variety can eventually be traced to three sources, which are not, however, independent but interdependent. Three sources, the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, which are not, however, independent but interdependent. All three go together. They cooperate with each other, but they also have problems. When one becomes predominant, excessive, the other two become subordinate elements. But they don't give up their companionship. They go together. Matter is characterized by perpetual motion. Motion is there. More specifically with regard to the Sankhya, all the time Prakriti is in change. Even the state of evolution, it is undergoing change. There are two kinds of changes, we will come to that later. At no time does it remain constant. In the state of creation, it undergoes changes. In the state of dissolution, it is subject to change. Change which are producing variety. Neither mind is derived from matter, nor matter from mind. This is specifically the Sankhya. The first three principles, whatever is always is, whatever is not is never is. Change implies something that changes. The effect is essentially the same. Same thing as in Advaita. There is a Sankhya, when I come to the evolution, I will take it up. That is when you look at the scheme of evolution, I have given chart, I think, I have given the same page, last. There is Purusha, there is Prakriti. Two entities, two ultimate entities. They are totally different, but there is interaction between the two. Interaction between the two. It is because of the interaction that Prakriti evolves. Otherwise, Prakriti cannot evolve. The two interact and cooperate with each other. This Sankhya gives example, the blind man and the lame man and all that. The first evolute from Prakriti is Buddhi, I given. Then Ahankara. From Ahankara, you derive all that one. So, from Ahankara, mind, sense organs, motor organs, Tanmatras, then from Tanmatras, Mahabhutas. I given. Now, the mind is not directly derived from matter. Matter is, let us say, Prakriti. Mind is not directly derived. It may be an evolute, because there is only one ultimate source, that is Prakriti. Primordial matter, they call it primordial matter or primal matter, primal source. From that everything, the entire manifested world has evolved. But the immediate cause of mind is not Prakriti, matter. So, matter, neither mind is derived from matter nor matter from mind. They are two independent substances. In the sense in which this system understands the whole development. In one sense, mind also must be an evolute, being an evolute of matter, Prakriti, it is not really independent. That's why I did not so much stress the last three, that is specifically with regard to the Sankhya. The first three postulates are common to the Sankhya system and the Mimamsa and the Advaita system. Yeah. Now, just I will make a reference to the theory of causation. I will develop it tomorrow. Theory of causation. I will introduce the words at least. The Nyaya Vaisesika system accepts what is known as Asatkaryavada. otherwise called Arambhavada. Asatkaryavada. Translation, the theory called prior non-existence of the cause. Prior non-existence. That is a cause from which the effect arises. Is something newly originated, Arambha. It's simple. Before it, the origination, the effect was non-existent, Asat. Karya, the effect, was Asat prior to its origination. It was absent earlier. So what is non-existent earlier, the part was non-existent earlier, it has been originated by the potter by working on clay. Clay is existent, the potter is existent, but the part is not existent. It is newly originated, something newly originated. Newly originated means that something was non-existent earlier. So something, the karya which was non-existent earlier, asat, that non-existent entity has been originated, therefore it is an effect originated from the cause. Cause here, material cause, pot, clay, and then the efficient cause, the potter. So we require two causes, two factors, the material cause and the efficient cause. So far as the status of the effect is concerned, it is something that has been originated as something new, even though it was non-existent earlier. Therefore, simple term is Arambhavada, Arambha, beginning. The effect has got, the story begins now. This is the Nyaya theory. Now the Sankhya formulates a theory called Satkaryavada, not Asatkaryavada, but Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada. Now, the karya, the part, no doubt, has been originated, but it was existent. Existent not as part, existent as clay. It has a prior existence, not in the same form, but in its causal form. What has been in the causal form, clay, has now been given shape by the work of the potter, and then you have what is called the karya. Therefore, Satkaryavada. So, theories of causation broadly into two, Asatkaryavada and Satkaryavada. This is the Nyaya-Vaisesika theory, this is the Sankhya theory. Now, the Satkaryavada is of two kinds again. One is Parinamavada, the other is Vivartavada. Like this is the general classification. If you want to give a name for the Sankhya theory, it is Parinamavada, specifically Parinamavada. Advaita theory is Vivartavada. Both of them under the Satkaryavada. The effect before its origination was existent. The world before its origination was existent in Maya. The part before its origination was existent in clay. This is the classification given by Datta and Chatterjee. But Hiriyanna does not follow this classification. To him, call it Satkaryavada or Parinamavada, the same thing. Parinamavada is only another name for Satkaryavada. That is how Hiriyanna presents the classification. And many people hold the same view, people who are not acquainted with Datta and Chatterjee. Another 2 or 3 minutes, sir. When I appeared as a candidate for my examination, Mahadevan was my examiner, one of the examiners. I appeared as a private candidate. I had my BA training in philosophy, sound training, and then later on I became a lecturer with my BA, and then I studied as a private candidate and appeared for the examination. And in those days, for MA examination, there is in philosophy, there is oral examination. I came from the countryside, studied in Tiruchi, then went to Madanapalli for teaching logic. Made an attempt to become a police officer, turned down. Then I decided to appear for the MA examination as a private candidate. Passed. Then the interview, oral examination, I never knew. I heard about Mahadevan, I never seen the figure. And then the oral examination was in Madras, the old building. And I went with my dhoti, whereas students from Madras Christian College and other colleges, boys and girls, in all the sophistication, they came for the oral and Viva examination. I never knew anything about that. And they said that Mahadevan is also one of the examiners sitting in the board. Mahadevan and 2 others. And Mahadevan took my Indian philosophy paper. Paper was with his hands. This is how we are given the classification. Do you think it is right? I say it's right. More than that, I could not argue. I did not argue, for I am only a candidate being examined by. No, Satkaryavada and Parinavada are the same thing. He was telling that I'm a little confused. I kept quiet. I didn't want to say that it is there in the book, Nyaya Vaisesika, Chatterjee. There was a kind of a deep prejudice among even Mahadevan. Probably they won't touch Dattan Chatterjee. Kiriyana, great master, no doubt. But later on I checked, I think it was quite correct. And when you read the collected papers of Suryanarayana Sastri, Suryanarayana Sastri follows this classification. He justifies his classification. When we talk about the Vivartavada, say for example the snake, appearance of the snake. The snake is the illusory snake. It has not come from nowhere, already there. Adhisthana is there. In the absence of Adhisthana, it will not have any origination. Therefore, it can even be called Sat-karanavada. Karana is Sat for us. Usually we say that the Karya is Kalpida. I will have occasion to develop that one. Karya is always Kalpida. I am using the language of my teacher, Shastrigal. It is Kalpida. It is what we call an appearance. But what is the reality? The Karana is always the reality. Between clay and pot, clay has got a higher reality because it is a cause. Between the bird and Brahman, Brahman has a higher reality. In the Kathopanishad, it says that there is a verse which says that cause always has got a higher status, whereas the effect has got a lower status. Now this is the classification. I will go into the subtleties tomorrow. So, causal theory is broadly divided into 2. Asatkaryavada, otherwise called Arambhavada, that is the Nyaya Vaisesika theory. Then the other theory is called Satkaryavada, favored not only by the Sankhyas but even by the Advaitins. Satkaryavada is there. And then that is divided into 2. Parinamavada and Vivartavada. Parinamavada is the specific Sankhya theory, Vivartavada, the Advaita theory. We'll stop.